que nous avons avec nos forêts, nos ressources en eau, nos minéraux stratégiques qui aident à atteindre l'objectif d'atténuer la température planétaire à 1,5 degré Celsius, de sorte que les scientifiques nous donnent ces données fiables et que nous puissions quitter l'aide au développement en matière de fonds climat pour aller dans un partenariat gagnant-gagnant. Il est exclu que les pays industrialisés commencent à nous donner des dons jusqu'à présent, alors qu'ils ont besoin de nous. Ils sont eux-mêmes responsables de 80% des pollutions dans le monde et nous leur donnons la réponse, mais en échange, on nous amène des dons. Voilà, Monsieur le Président, le petit mot que je vous souhaiterais dire au niveau du point 7 concernant le point d'adaptation. Je vous remercie.
I thank the distinguished representative of the DRC, and I take this opportunity to thank the DRC for having hosted the pre-COP, which has certainly contributed to the smooth work that we are now undertaking. I see no other delegations which wish to take the floor at this time. We turn to election of members and alternative members of the Adaptation Fund Board. Will be conducted during the closing CMP plenary. The first contact group on this item will be held today at 17:30 in MR 16. Please check the CCTV and the daily program for the latest information. And now I invite the CMP to consider Agenda Item 10, Report of the Compliance Committee. Parties may wish to refer to the report of the Compliance Committee contained in document FCC/KP/CMP/2022/2. I would like to thank the chairpersons of the committee, Koniko Shimada, Paulette Baino, Lisa Benjamin, and Carolina Antonena for their leadership, and the members and alternative members for their hard work. I propose to convene the informal consultations to consider this item to be facilitated by Ms. Konzanga from Bhutan. There are no objections. It is so decided. I would like to thank the facilitators for accepting this role. Please consult the CCTV and daily program for confirmation and details on the room number. I now invite the CMP to consider Agenda Item 11, Report on the High-Level Ministerial Roundtable on Increased Ambition of Kyoto Protocol Commitments. Consultations during CMP 16 on this matter revealed that views remain divergent on whether further work is needed under this agenda item. I propose to undertake consultations to be facilitated by Mr. Amr Osama Abdelaziz of my delegation. Hearing no objections, it is so decided. Delegations, distinguished delegates, this brings us to the end of our first meeting of the CMP. I would now like to adjourn this meeting and open the CMA. We will meet later today after the opening plenaries of the subsidiary bodies for the joint plenary meeting of the governing and subsidiary bodies to hear statements from groups of parties and observers. The meeting of the CMP is now adjourned. Distinguished delegates, I now declare open the fourth session of the Conference of the Parties, serving as the meeting of the parties to the Paris Agreement. The meeting is thereby open. We will now proceed with our work under Agenda Item 2, Organizational Matters. I invite the conference to consider Sub-Item 2A of the Provisional Agenda, Adoption of the Agenda. I invite parties to turn to document FCC/PA/CMA/2022/1/Add 4 which contains the supplementary provisional agenda. With the understandings that I previously outlined in the first plenary meeting of the COP, I propose that the supplementary provisional agenda as contained in document FCCC/PA/CMA/2022/1 add 4 be adopted. Being no objections, it is so decided. Proceeding with our work, I now invite the conference to consider sub-item 2C, organization of work, including the sessions of the subsidiary bodies. On the following items, the CMA will take appropriate action on the basis of recommendations from the relevant subsidiary body. Item 4, matters relating to the work program for urgently scaling up mitigation ambition and implementation, referred to in paragraph 27 of Decision 1/CMA3. Sub-item B of item 5, reporting and review pursuant to Article 13 of the Paris Agreement, options for conducting reviews on a voluntary basis of the information reported pursuant to Chapter 4 of the Annex to Decision 18/CMA1 and respective training courses needed to facilitate these voluntary reviews. Sub-item A of item 6, matters relating to adaptation report of the Adaptation Committee. Sub-item C of item 6, matters relating to adaptation, Glasgow Sharm el-Sheikh work program on the global goal on adaptation, referred to in Decision 7/CMA3. Item 7, Warsaw International Mechanism for Loss and Damage associated with climate change impacts. Sub-items A and B of item 9, development and transfer of technologies and implementation of the technology mechanism. Item 10, capacity building under the Paris Agreement. Item 11, matters related to the least developed countries. Item 12, report of the Forum on the impact of implementation of response measures. Item 13, guidance on cooperative approaches, referred to in Article 6, Paragraph 2 of the Paris Agreement. Item 15, work program under the framework for non-market approaches, referred to in Article 6, Paragraph 8 of the Paris Agreement. Sub-item A and B of item 17, administrative, financial, and institutional matters. These items are already on the agendas of the respective subsidiary body, and that body may develop draft decisions or conclusions for consideration by the CMA as appropriate. In addition, I propose to refer the following matters to the relevant subsidiary body. Under Agenda Item 5, reporting and review pursuant to Article 13 of the Paris Agreement, I propose to refer the consideration of Sub-Item 5A, provision of financial and technical support to developing countries, parties for reporting and capacity building, to the subsidiary body. Under Item 6, matters relating to adaptation, I propose to refer the consideration of Sub-Item B, review of progress, effectiveness, and performance of the Adaptation Committee, to the SAPSTA and the SBI. During the COP plenary, I presented proposals for the organization of work. As all parties to the agreement are also parties to the convention, I propose that the CMA follows the same approach as the COP. The content of the overarching CMA decision 1/CMA4, will be addressed in the same informal consultations as those for Decision 1/CP27. Distinguished delegates, I would like to take this opportunity to draw parties' attentions to documents FCCC/PA/CMA/2022/4 and FCCC/PA/CMA/2022/8. These synthesis reports respond to the requests in paragraph 30 of Decision 1/CMA3, where the Secretariat was requested to annually update the synthesis reports on nationally determined contributions under the Paris Agreement, referred to in Decision 1/CMA2, paragraph 10, to be made available to the CMA at each of its sessions, as well as paragraph 34 of the same decision, 1/CMA3, where the Secretariat was requested to prepare a synthesis report on long-term low greenhouse gas emission development strategies referred to in Article 4, paragraph 19 of the Paris Agreement, to be made available at CMA4. The synthesis reports, which are available on the UNFCCC website, provide an overview of where parties stand in terms of the ambition and actions outlined in their nationally determined contributions and long-term low greenhouse gas emission development strategies, and they can serve as useful inputs to your deliberations here in Sharm el-Sheikh. Both reports highlight the urgent need for immediate and scaled-up implementation of climate action. During the second week of the conference, we will reconvene the CMA to consider the decisions and conclusions for adoption. Since there are no objections, we will proceed on this basis. It is so decided. I now invite the CMA to consider Agenda Item 8, matters relating to finance, including sub-item A to F. Before I move to the agenda sub-items, I would like to draw your attention to document FCC/PA/CMA/2022/1 Add 4, which includes the revised list of addendas to be considered under these agenda sub-items. I would like to introduce all the sub-items and then outline the overall approach in dealing with these agenda items. Item /7, the synthesis of views regarding way to achieve Article 2, Paragraph 1C of the Paris Agreement, the input on definitions of climate finance and other outcomes of the SCF's work, and to take any action it deems appropriate. The CMA is also invited to continue its consideration of the review of the functions of the SCF as part of the review referred to in Decision 11/CP25. Regarding sub-item 8B, guidance to the Green Climate Fund, the CMA is invited to provide guidance to the GCF on policies, program priorities, and eligibility criteria related to the Paris Agreement for transmission by the COP. Regarding sub-item 8C, guidance to the Global Environmental Facility, the CMA is invited to provide guidance to the GEF on policy, program priorities, and eligibility criteria related to the Paris Agreement for transmission to the COP. Regarding sub-item 8D, matters related to Adaptation Fund, the CMA is invited to take any action it deems appropriate on matters relating to the Adaptation Fund and considering the outcomes of the fourth review of the Adaptation Fund as referred in Decision 4/CMP16, paragraph 7. Regarding sub-item 8E, new collective qualified goal on climate finance, the CMA is invited to take stock of the progress made and providing further guidance on the ad hoc work program, taking into consideration the annual report of the co-chairs of the ad hoc working program and the summary of the deliberations at the high-level ministerial dialogue taking place on 9. I would like to thank Federica Fercano from Italy and Kishan Kamar Singh from Trinidad and Tobago for their leadership as co-chairs of the ad hoc work program and for their work conducted over the year. Regarding sub-item 8F, matters relating to funding arrangements responding to loss and damage associated with the adverse effects of climate change, including a focus on addressing loss and damage. The CMA is invited to initiate its consideration of this matter. I would now like to outline the approach for considering these agenda sub-items. Consideration of sub-item 8A will be undertaken in the contact group established for COP agenda sub-item 8A, co-chaired by Dominic Molloy from the United Kingdom and Janine Felsen from Belize. Consideration of sub-item 8B and C will be undertaken by the contact group established from the COP agenda sub-item 8B and C and co-chaired by Tru Sigyo from Japan and Richard Mayoguni from Tanzania. Consideration of sub-item 8D will be undertaken in the contact group established for the CMP agenda item 7A, co-chaired by Diane Blake Lynn from Antigua and Barbuda, and Eva Schroeder from the Netherlands. For sub-item 8E, I propose that George Borsting from Norway and Zahir Fakir from South Africa co-chair the contact group established for the sub-item. Consideration of sub-item 8F will be undertaken in the contact group established for the COP agenda item 8F, co-chaired by Julio Cordano from Chile and Ursula Fuentes from Germany. I hear no objections to the above. It is so decided. The first contact group for sub-item 8D will be held today at 17:45 in MR16. Please check the CCTV and daily program for the latest schedule. I now invite the conference to consider item 14, rules, modalities, and procedures for the mechanisms established by Article 6, paragraph 4 of the Paris Agreement. The CMA is invited to consider the annual report of the subsidiary body for the mechanism established by Article 6, paragraph 4 of the Paris Agreement as contained in document FCC/PA/CMA/2022/6. Since the publication of the annual report, the supervisory body met here in Sharm el-Sheikh and worked late into last night with the aim of completing work mandated for the CMA4. That work is captured in the addendum to the annual report and will be published and distributed to parties in due course. I would like to thank the Chair and Vice Chair of the Supervisory Body for 2022, Christine Khay and Piotr Dombrovnik for their leadership, and the members and alternative members of the body for their hard work. In addition, under this agenda item, the CMA will consider the SBSTA conclusions related to the Article 6, paragraph 4 of the Paris Agreement once concluded this week. To conduct this work, contact group to be co-chaired by Kate Hancock from Australia and Sonam Tshai from Bhutan is proposed to be established. Since I hear no objections, it is so decided. I now invite the CMA to consider agenda item 16, report of the committee to facilitate implementation and promote compliance referred to in Article 15, paragraph 2 of the Paris Agreement. Parties may wish to refer to the report of the Paris Agreement Implementation and Compliance Committee contained in document FCC/PA/CMA/2022/2. I would like to thank Christine Viog and Hasib Gohar, co-chairs of the committee, for their leadership, as well as the members and alternate members for their hard work. I propose to establish a contact group to consider this item to be co-chaired by Kunzang from Bhutan and Aaron Reidel from Germany. Since I hear no objections, it is so decided. I would like to thank the co-chairs for accepting this role. I invite parties to refer to the daily program and CCTV for information on the time and location of the first meeting of the contact group. Election of members and alternative members of the committee will be conducted during the closing CMA plenary. Delegates, this brings us to the end of our first meeting of the CMA. We will meet later today after the opening plenaries of the subsidiary bodies for the joint plenary of the governing and subsidiary bodies to hear statements from groups of parties and observers. This meeting, I give the floor to Ireland. Does Ireland wish to take the floor, or is it merely a technical glitch? It might appear to have been a technical glitch. Since there are no parties which wish to take the floor at this time, I declare the meeting of the CMA is now adjourned.
Yes, please.
All right. As a point of information, please note that the SAPSTA will open at 3 p.m. in this room for all of those who will be in attendance. I thank you.
Test, check, test. ده تمام ده خلاص.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Salam alaikum. It's my great pleasure to welcome you to the opening press conference of the United Nations Climate Change Conference COP27 here in Sharm el-Sheikh. I'm here with the newly elected COP27 President, Sameh Shoukry, and UN Climate Change Executive Secretary, Simon Steele. The COP27 President will provide some remarks in the beginning, followed by the Executive Secretary. We will then open the floor for questions. Mr. President, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. I will maybe speak to begin with in Arabic and then shift to English to just reiterate إنه لشرف عظيم بأن تستضيف مصر مؤتمر الأطراف لاتفاقية الأمم المتحدة لتغير المناخ. هذا الشرف تحظى به مصر في إطار مسؤولية التي عبرت عنها خلال كافة المراحل الخاصة بمفاوضات اتفاقية الأطراف من حيث إدراك الخطورة التي يواجهها العالم من خلال تغير المناخ وأهمية تضافر الجهود الدولية لتحقيق القدرة لدول العالم على مواجهة هذه التحديات حيث أنها تؤثر على حياة المواطنين العاديين، على القدرة على استمرار جهود التنمية وعلى مستقبل الأجيال القادمة. It is an honor and a pleasure that Egypt hosts COP27 as a recognition of its determination over the years to support climate action and to undertake its responsibilities, being fully cognizant of the importance of dealing with climate change in an effective manner through a consensual multilateral process that provides the opportunity for all parties to undertake their responsibilities to address this challenge, the challenge that affects ordinary people's lives and livelihoods, the challenge that we must face collectively if we are to address the devastating effects of climate change, and that we do not go beyond the point of no return to preserve this planet for future generations. I have to say that I am satisfied with the process of consultations that have been undertaken during this year with the help of the COP26 presidency and his team, Minister el-Sheikh Sharm, and the designate president's team during the informal consultations that certainly have contributed to a successful launch of COP27. The issue of the agenda has been adopted smoothly after Herculean consultations over the last 48 hours that were chaired by the presidency team, and are delighted to have adopted for the first time an agenda item on the most important issue of loss and damage, an issue that is recognized by the vast majority of the international community as a very fundamental issue, one that has to be addressed with transparency and dedication because of what we all see in the span of 1 year of the consequences related to climate change that have affected millions of citizens across the world. I want to also take this opportunity, this being the first COP for the existing Executive Secretary, Mr. Simon Steele, in undertaking his responsibility and leading the Secretariat in preparation for COP27. I have to commend the professionalism of the Secretariat, his own commitment and determination and experience and wisdom, which has certainly been invaluable to the presidency and to the process. I welcome his assuming his position, and I look forward to working with him through these 2 weeks of convening of the COP and during the coming year where Egypt will be the president and will be handing over the responsibilities subsequently to the United Arab Emirates. I thank you and I look forward to responding to any of your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. I hand over to the Executive Secretary. Simon, please.
Okay, thank you, Alex, and a warm welcome to all of you, and thank you, Sameh, for your kind words. And I have to start by thanking actually the Secretariat team. It's their hard work over the course of the last year that has gotten us to this point. I have come in just in the last few weeks, so I certainly can't lay any claim to the preparations that have gone into it. So as I said, it's a credit to the Secretariat team. You will have heard my opening speech, so it's not my intention to repeat myself there. But it's clear that the world needs to come together to align itself with the magnitude of the crisis that we face. And that is why we're here in these very difficult geopolitical times. And we have an opportunity, if we are able to create a safe political space within this compound to focus on the matters at hand in terms of addressing the climate crisis. If we are able to do that, then we have a chance to move the agenda forward. And as I said, we have an opportunity to demonstrate in these difficult times how we can truly come together for the greater good. From my conversations with parties so far, I can see that there are areas of common ground. The delegations, parties now need to decide on how much of that political influence, how much of that politics influences the technical progress that we need to make. I'm certainly excited to have taken on this role a few weeks ago, and as said in my speech, I have a vision of where collectively we need to go together. The depth and the knowledge and the skills within the UNFCCC is absolutely incredible, and it is an honor to be part of that team. So as we pivot towards implementation, we will be supporting parties to come with as much ambition as possible across all of the negotiating tracks. So over the next couple of days, proceedings will focus on the Climate Implementation Summit, a high-level segment with statements, roundtables, and side events with the participation of heads of states or governments. And I believe we're at 110 heads of state who will be present over the next couple of days. The high-level Champions in the Marrakesh Partnership Programme will also get underway tomorrow, fostering collaboration from the whole of society to deliver greenhouse gas emission reductions and help ensure a just transition to a net zero economy and a sustainable future. I will be insisting over the coming weeks and beyond on the need for greater ambition and urgent action to avert the climate crisis from all actors, all sectors, all regions, all nations. And as I said in my speech, from everybody, everywhere, every day, doing everything possible. As recent reports have shown, emissions are not coming down at the required speed or scale. Mitigation needs to be increased to keep the 1.5 degree limit and to ensure that we have a safer world. Resilience is not growing in a way that protects societies from the growing impacts of climate change. Adaptation must therefore be further enhanced to prevent ever-growing loss and suffering. The issue of loss and damage needs to be credibly addressed, and the time has come for us to do so. All countries, especially the most vulnerable and least developed, must receive the support they need to achieve their climate goals. So finance is, as ever, a critical issue in order to meet the magnitude of the crisis that is faced. And then finally, transparency and accountability. These must be strengthened to consolidate trust and collaboration and to improve the monitoring of climate action. So with the leadership of the incoming presidency, the support of all presiding officers, the goodwill of parties, and in full knowledge of our responsibility to this generation and those to come, I look forward to an intense, productive, but ultimately successful outcome. I thank you, and I'm available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Executive Secretary. We now take questions from the floor. Could you please introduce yourself and your media organization? And you would need to wait for the microphone because we are also streamed on social media and on the internet. Let me start in the first row, the gentleman with the blue shirt. The microphone is coming.
Yes, Seth Borenstein, the Associated Press. Thank you for doing this. For Secretary Steele, looking at the, can you shed some light on the inner goings on the agenda item for loss and damage? That what caused you? What brought along an agreement on that, on the agenda item? And can you tell us, does this give you more hope for some outcome? In general, just are you seeing more light at the end of this tunnel for that issue because of the adoption of this this agenda item?
Okay, thank you, Seth. There's always light at the end of the tunnel. There has to be. When we look at where we were a few weeks ago, where the discussion was whether or not loss and damage would even be on the agenda, and the fact that it has been adopted as an agenda item demonstrates progress and parties taking a mature and constructive attitude towards this. This is a difficult subject area. It's been floating for 30 plus years, so that the fact that it is there as a substantive agenda item, I believe bodes well. What I would encourage and what I would hope is that parties continue in that spirit of finding common areas to agree on, to start outlining what the process, the way forward for loss and damage can be in a time-bound manner. So I'm certainly encouraged by what I've seen, what we have seen over these past few days. What will be most telling is how those discussions progress in the substantive discussion over the next couple of weeks.
The lady here in the first row in black and white.
Thank you. My name is Suzy El-Ghenedi, Deputy Chief Editor of Al-Ahram Al-Arabi magazine, and my question is for Minister Sameh Shoukry concerning Egypt have succeeded in this COP27 than other COPs that failed in putting loss and damage on the agenda. But what is the mechanism, financing mechanism for this? Will it be like the $100 billion that ever haven't been reached, or there is another mechanism so that we can reach it? Thank you very much.
Well, we definitely regard this as a success for the parties, the success for the process. It is the culmination of a long process of consultations, specifically during this last year, that has culminated in very intensive consultations over the last 48 hours. That has shown, as the Executive Secretary has mentioned, a degree of maturity, a degree of willingness to compromise, and a recognition of the importance to a vast number, if not the majority, of the international community of addressing this issue. I think it would be highly unproductive to speculate on what the substantive content of the negotiating process will lead to. But certainly everybody is hopeful. First of all, the determination of a time frame to conclude, and is hopeful that the political will that has been demonstrated currently and that has led us to the inclusion of the item will continue in the coming negotiating process to lead us to a conclusion that is satisfactory, that takes into consideration the interest of all the parties. Again, anything that we do effectively has to be on the basis of our common efforts, and that we leave no one behind. This is the principles that will lead to our success, and this is what we as presidents will strive to achieve.
The lady in the second row, white shirt, on this side.
Hello, Hannah Thomas-Peter from Sky News. This is a question for both Mr. Shukri and Mr. Steele. What are your greatest fears for the year ahead, given the warnings that the world is not on track to reduce its emissions adequately?
I think, as everybody recognizes, the current geopolitical situation, the consequences in terms of the global economic crisis has put quite a burden on the process of meeting the challenges related to climate change and fulfilling the commitments that have been made. And what I would advocate is that we should not allow for the circumstances that we face today. And in comparison to climate change, to the future of the globe, they are transitional. They are of today. While climate change and its impact is existential, and thereby we should not detract from our ability to move forward, to undertake our commitments, to raise the level of our ambition, to meet that challenge, and not to in any way take advantage or refer to the current circumstances as justification, to take the easy road of backtracking supposedly on the premise that there are other priorities. This is the main priority for the globe, for the citizens of the world, those who have been affected. And we've seen only this year the degree of the effect on people, whether in Pakistan, in the millions who have been displaced, who have lost their lives, in the fires and the heat waves of Europe and the United States and their consequences on material loss. All of this must maintain the focus on what we have committed to and raise our ambitions and reach our targets of zero emissions, but also deal effectively with adaptation. If adaptation is not met sufficiently, if the issue of finance is not fulfilled to enable especially developing nations to undertake both adaptation and mitigation processes, then we will lag behind. There is no room to lag behind. There is no room except to move forward if we are to maintain our objectives.
I think President Shukri has outlined this very, very well. The fear is other priorities take precedence. And when we look at the crises that surround us, all are important. But there is no one single crisis as critical, as impactful as climate change. Wars will end. Inflation, cost of living, energy crisis, these will come to an end. But what we are seeing, what the science is telling us, and what we're seeing in all of our communities, all around the world, climate change is ever present and will only get worse. So the need to focus, refocus, and that's what this COP gives us an opportunity to do, on what needs to be done, because we know what needs to be done, we know how it needs to be done, and we know who needs to do it. So the need to build momentum and to keep moving forward should be at the heart of everything that is not just discussed here in Sharm el-Sheikh, but the actions taken and those that continue. And again, just building on that fear is that we lose another day, another week, another month, another year, because we can't. And that backsliding, however justified, those parties need to double down and catch up and move forward, because we are not where we need to be.
The lady in the first row in white shirt.
Hello, my name is, so I have a bit of a cold, Anne-Marie. I'm with the Africa Report. My question is a bit twofold, and it's for both Secretary Steele and President Shukri. It's the fact that the losses and damages was discussed even up until early this morning, so there was a bit of a pushback to it. And I wanted to know, first of all, what were some main reasons for the reluctance on the parts of others to accept it into the agenda? And secondly, now that it is in the agenda, what main points need to be touched on for it to actually be deemed successful in this COP?
Well, I think this is not a new issue. This is an issue, as the Executive Secretary has mentioned, that's been with us for a substantial number of years. And there have been reservations aired as to the extent and the responsibilities that might be entailed from the addition in an official manner of this item on the agenda. But we have sensed over this year specifically a change in the positions of delegations that had reservations. I think this has come about because of the momentum that has been created since Paris, since Glasgow, and the need to maintain that momentum, and the recognition that that can only be done if there is a sense of equity and confidence and trust among all the parties, that all of their interests are being justifiably considered in an equitable manner. So we, I think, can go beyond whatever reservations existed and move forward again and look at the positive development in the inclusion on the agenda, and that this does open the door for a more in-depth, more transparent consultation and negotiation process where the landing zone for whatever conclusions we will have to arrive at through consensus, through building bridges, through accommodations, through flexibility. This is how we can achieve our goals, and it is again the communal nature of what we are endeavoring to do that has to be at the forefront.
Thank you. I wouldn't read too much into that right now. What is clear is the space has been created for the discussion. This is about building trust between parties, the fact that parties can come together and resolve whatever issues there were with regard to the agenda item. As I said at the beginning, is a very positive and constructive sign. The real test will be the quality of the discussion that takes place now over the next 2 weeks, and judgment will be based on the quality of the outcomes. This is a complex issue, very complex, but it's also a critical issue. The two things that the agenda item asks for, it's about specifically addressing loss and damage, and then the funding arrangements around it. So the space is there, the parties are engaged. Let's monitor over the course of the next 2 weeks where we go with this.
The gentleman here on this side in the fourth row.
Thank you. Leo Hickman from Carbon Brief. It's a question about the world's two largest emitters, the US and China. What do you need those two parties specifically to bring to these negotiations to help the most vulnerable and the least responsible for climate change? Thank you.
I would suggest we look at all major emitters. It's what do all parties need to bring to the table, and it's clear in terms of national NDCs what they need to do, how far those parties, all parties, need to lean forward. We know where the majority of emissions are generated, and that is within the group of 20. Generating 80% of emissions there. Also contributing to 85% of global GDP. So the wealth, the technology, the means to address what needs to be done resides there. It's important that parties cooperate. And again, the space that's created within this COP process provides party with that opportunity. But where there isn't collaboration in terms of national obligations, all parties know what they need to do and when they need to do it.
The gentleman here, second row.
محمد يوسف، الإذاعة المصرية. سؤالي لمعالي الوزير سامح شكري وزير الخارجية المصري رئيس المؤتمر. حسنا فعلت مصر حينما تقدمت بطلب نيابة عن القارة الأفريقية لاستضافة كوب 27. الجميع يعلم أن الحكومة المصرية تبذل جهودا كبيرة في سبيل تخفيف الضغط الخاص بالتغيرات المناخية عن القارة الأفريقية، في ظل تأكيد القاهرة الدائم أن القارة الأفريقية هي الأكثر تضرراً من تأثير وتداعيات التغيرات المناخية، في ظل أيضاً أنه القارة هي الأقل في الانبعاثات الغازية. السؤال الآن معالي الوزير، ما هو نصيب القارة الأفريقية في كوب 27 من حيث الدعم الخاص بالتمويل أو دعم التكنولوجيا أو التحول إلى المشروعات الخضراء الخاصة بكوب 27؟
كما تفضلت بالتأكيد أنه دول القارة الأفريقية الأطراف من الدول التي تعاني وتأثرت بالتغيرات المناخية إلى حد كبير، ولن تسهم في هذه المشكلة، وإنما تعمل في نفس الوقت وأبدت الاستعداد للاطلاع بمسؤوليتها في مواجهة التطورات السلبية المرتبطة بتغير المناخ، ولكن هي تحتاج أيضا إلى الدعم في إطار قدرتها على التكيف، وأيضا اطلاعها بمسؤوليتها فيما يتعلق بالتخفيف. تأكيد أنه قضية التمويل هي قضية هامة، قضية الانتقال العادل إلى الطاقة الجديدة والمتجددة حتى تستطيع الدول الأفريقية أن تستمر على مسارها نحو التنمية المستدامة، نحو رفع مواطنيها من خط الفقر، والعمل على استمرار المساهمة الإيجابية في الجهود الدولية. والدول الأفريقية هي طرف أصيل في العملية التفاوضية، لها الاهتمامات بكل القضايا المطروحة على جدول الأعمال، وتسعى بأن تكون المشاورات والمفاوضات الحالية داعمة لإمكانية اطلاعها بمسؤولياتها ومهامها، وأن يتيح المؤتمر بصفة عامة والفعاليات المرتبطة به والمبادرات التي سوف تطلق خلاله، ومشاركة القطاع الخاص وقطاع الأعمال ومنظمات التمويل الدولية والمجتمع المدني في طرح الحلول في الاستعداد لنقل التكنولوجيا التي تتيح للدول الأفريقية والدول النامية بصفة عامة تعزيز قدراتها على التعامل مع قضايا تغير المناخ، سواء فيما يتعلق بالتخفيف أو التكيف، واستمرار الإسهام الإيجابي في المفاوضات فيما بين الأطراف.
So we have time for one more question. The lady here in the second row.
Thank you. Thanks for doing this. Secretary Steele, you mentioned the group of G20 countries. There's a number of leaders from the G20 that are going to be absent from the implementation summit. I believe the leaders of China and India, but also Australia and Canada, will not be attending the implementation summit. Some have justified their absence by the fact that this is not a decision COP, quotes. How important is it for leaders to continue to be engaged in this process as we move towards implementation? And how important is it for leaders to keep coming back to these meetings year after year as we shift from target setting to implementation?
Could you please introduce yourself?
Hello. So I'm Chloe Fran from Climate Home News.
Hi, Chloe. It would be wonderful if we had every leader of every party represented at every COP. This COP, we have 110 leaders here. That is a very positive and good signal. Leadership is absolutely critical, whether it is at a domestic level. And the first measure is our leaders showing the path in terms of their own domestic agendas in meeting the Paris Agreement. And then opportunities such as this, which is to get them all together so we can focus on how they can collaborate, share experiences, and consider the challenges still faced, which will be done over the next couple of days with the roundtables, the leaders' roundtables. The presidency has created a very rich and innovative series of sessions where leaders will be discussing and sharing their thoughts on all of the critical elements that are central to climate action. And the representation around those tables, we're confident, will generate some very powerful insights. And from this, further direction to the process, which will shine the way for the remainder of the 2 weeks and provide some political direction to the negotiations that are about to take place. So in terms of the representation, we always want more, but I believe there is sufficient right now for us to have a very productive outcome.
Thank you very much, Shukran. Thank you very much for coming. Please watch out for the next press conferences. Let me just give you the numbers of today, this morning. So we have registered today 26,965 government representatives, we call them party members, 13,888 observers, and 3,321 media representatives. In total, 44,174. Thank you very much.
May I just add, as a word of welcome to all of those numbers that have been indicated. And I think those numbers in themselves are recognizably the span of attention that is increasing from COP to COP, the importance that is attached to this endeavor. And all are welcomed, whether delegates, civil society, NGOs, private sector. All of the stakeholders are fundamental, are essential for us to achieve progress. And we are happy to receive them in Sharm el-Sheikh and hope that the environment that we have and the environment that we have created will be conducive to a very productive outcome, which is satisfactory to the constituents. Those constituents are the men and women, children, who we all seek to undertake this responsibility on their behalf and for their futures. Thank you.
They need to log in. We need to log in. Oh, it's okay now? Okay. Oh,
Test mic, test. Test mic.
Good afternoon and welcome to this World Meteorological Organization press conference. Be careful. So WMO is releasing today the provisional state of the global climate 2022 report, and it shows that the past 8 years are on track to be among the 8 warmest on record. Today we have with us Professor Petri Talas, Secretary General of the World Meteorological Organization, who will be presenting the context and the findings of this report, and Omar Badour, the head of the Climate Monitoring Division at WMO, who will be taking questions. But to begin with, I'm honored to give the floor to UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres.
Sending a distress signal. The latest state of the Global Climate Report is a chronicle of climate chaos. As the World Meteorological Organization saw so clearly, change is happening with catastrophic speed devastating lives and livelihoods on every continent. The last 8 years have been the warmest on record, making every heat wave more intense and life-threatening, especially for vulnerable populations. Sea levels are rising at twice the speed of the 90s, posing an existential threat for low-lying island states and threatening billions of people in coastal regions. Glacier melt records are themselves melting away, jeopardizing water security for whole continents. People and communities everywhere must be protected from the immediate and ever-growing risks of the climate emergency. That is why we are pushing so hard for universal early warning systems within 5 years. We must answer the planet's distress signal with action, ambitious, credible climate action. COP27 must be the place, and now must be the time.
So, Professor, tell us what is the context of this report?
Thank you, and welcome also on my behalf, and thanks for the authors of this report. We have had the practice to publish a preliminary status of climate reports during the COP events, and last week we published a greenhouse gas report showing that we have again broken records in all main 3 greenhouse gases: carbon dioxide, methane, and nitrous oxide. And last year we saw the biggest annual increase of methane concentration since '83. So we are not moving in the right direction in the real atmosphere. And out of those, of course, carbon dioxide is the most important one because of its very long lifetime, and it has contributed about 75% of the warming so far, and its removal from the atmosphere through natural processes is very, very slow. It takes up to thousands of years. Last year, this year, we didn't break all-time temperature record because of La Nina, which is cooling the Pacific ocean temperatures, and we have seen already 3 years of La Nina, which is also a bit unusual. It was 50 years ago when we had similar case last year. And once we have next so-called El Nino, which is warming the the Pacific ocean temperatures, we are likely to hit the 1.5 degree target, at least on temporary basis, and on more permanent basis next decade. And as the previous speakers in the previous event said, we have seen severe heat waves this year in China with drought, in Europe with drought, and also in western part of United States, and we have seen also so-called heat wave hitting Antarctica, which is speeding up the melting of glacier there. And this La Nina has had a negative impact on temperatures, and that's why, for example, in Uruguay they had very cold summer this year. And as Secretary General Guterres said, we have seen doubling of the sea level rise during the past 20 years. Recently we have seen 4.4 millimeters per year sea level rise, whereas 20 years ago it was about 2 millimeters per year. And this increase is very much coming from melting of glaciers, and unfortunately we have already lost this melting of glaciers game, which means that the sea level rise is supposed to continue for the coming hundreds of years or even thousands of years. And some of the most recent studies by NASA is demonstrating that there's a risk of several meters of sea level rise by 2300. So this is one of the bad news that I'm telling. We have started seeing also melting of the Antarctic sea ice, which wasn't the case in the past, and during the past 3 years there has been a severe drop in the Antarctic sea ice cover. And this heat wave, which was hitting Europe, led to dramatic melting of the alpine glaciers, and there's a record since 2000 from the Swiss glaciers, and we have never seen such strong melting of annual glacier. It was more than 6% drop the glacier mass, and that meant 3 to 4 meters in depth of the glaciers. And that had also impacts on the availability of water in European rivers. And these routes, as I already said, we have observed them in Europe, in China, in both Americas and also parts of Africa. And then we have also seen flooding events, and of course the most dramatic one was in Pakistan, and where 1/3 of the country was flooded. And one reason behind these unusual weather patterns is also related to the warming of Arctic, which is having impacts on the northern hemispheric weather patterns. We have started seeing more often stagnant weather conditions, heat waves with drought in summertime, cold spells in wintertime, and also paths of low pressure areas along the same areas, which has been happening in Pakistan this summer, and it happened in Germany a year ago. So if I summarize which were the top 5 most dramatic impact events this year, we still have this drought which is going on in Horn of Africa, which is hitting Somalia, Ethiopia, and Kenya. We had floods in Pakistan, which all of you know, heat wave, drought, and wildfires, both in Europe and China. And then there was a strong hurricane Ian hitting USA and Cuba. And this COP is going to be very much focusing on adaptation, and we have a new initiative on adaptation. Only half of our members have proper early warning services in place, which means that there are more human losses and economic losses attached to high-impact weather events. And that's why Secretary General Guterres has asked WMO to prepare an action plan how to reach 100% coverage of early warning services by the end of 2027. And that plan will be launched tomorrow by heads of state and Secretary General Guterres. And altogether we are talking about $3 billion investments during the coming 5 years, which is altogether 6% of the 50 billion a year climate financing, which is supposed to take place as part of the Paris Accord. I could show you some slides because I'm a scientist. I want to prove my things by showing the same thing in slides. So here you can see, not yet. Okay, next one, please. So this is to demonstrate what has happened to greenhouse gas concentrations. On the left, carbon dioxide, where we have seen about 150% increase since the pre-industrial times. And this methane increase we were breaking all-time high in the annual increase, and the third most important is nitrous oxide. And this methane is very much coming from tropical areas where we have wetlands, and we have also rice paddies and cattle which are causing those emissions. Next, please. And this is the temperature record, and as you can see, the last 3 years haven't been record-breaking, and that's very much because of this strong La Nina. And as I said, once we are back to El Nino year, which was, for example, 2016, which was the record-breaking year so far, then we are going to be fairly close to 1.5 or even exceeding that. And there's 50% chance that would happen during the coming 5 years. Next, please. And here you can see this on a map how the temperature anomalies were, and these heat waves have been hitting Asian and European countries, and also New Zealand and Antarctic temperatures were well above normal. And this La Nina you can see on the Pacific Ocean cooling, and that was having impacts on temperatures in Latin America. Next, please. And this is the sea level rise from 2 millimeters to more than 4 millimeters per year. and there's a growing component coming from melting of glaciers. In the past, also this thermal expansion of the seawater was having an impact. Next, please. And as I said, we have seen drop in the Antarctic sea ice extent. In the Arctic, there's continued declining trend, but what is a new feature is that same seems to be happening during recent years in the Antarctic sea ice coverage as well. Next, please. And this is about Switzerland glacier melting. You can see how much mass of glacier has been lost since 2000, and last summer was clearly a record-breaking year, and this is of course striking. If that happens again, then we are supposed to lose the whole glacier, and the estimation is that by the end of this century we lose most of the alpine glacier anyhow. Next, please. And this is a map showing where we have seen drought and flooding, and brown colors indicate drought, and green colors indicate flooding. And we have seen Pakistan floods, of course, Eastern Sahel floods, East Australia flooding, Southern Africa flooding, and then drought in both Americas, Europe, and also China. Next, please. And these are the top events as I already listed. Next, please. And then we have these early warning services for all initiatives which will be launched tomorrow. Next, please. That's all from my side.
Thank you very much, Professor Talas. And now I'm pleased to open the floor to questions. Omar Badur can answer some more technical questions. Please, AP.
Seth Borenstein, AP. Thank you for doing this. Professor Talas, you said that once we have the next good size El Nino, we'll hit 1.5, and on a more permanent basis in a decade. Coming out of Glasgow, Mr. Sharma, the Secretary General, Ms. Espinosa all said they kept 1.5 alive. How can 1.5 be alive when we're about to hit it and exceed it? And doesn't all the IPCC calculations show that 1.5 is close to dead? I mean, can you somehow explain how it is both alive and dead without bringing in?
Yeah, the IPCC report, which was published 4 years ago, was clearly demonstrating that for the welfare of mankind and biosphere, 1.5 would be more desired target rather than 2 degrees, which is the upper limit of Paris Agreement, and that report clearly demonstrated that. And that's why this focus was changed from 2 degrees to 1.5. And in Glasgow, there was a desire that there would be enough commitments to keep us on the track towards 1.5. And the good news from Glasgow was that the G7 countries and European Union made such commitments to keep us on that pathway, but the rest of G20 countries, which are responsible altogether for 80% of the emissions, they were not ready to do so. For example, India and China were indicating that they are interested in becoming carbon neutral, but by 2060 or 2070. And that would mean that we would be, in the best case, on this 2 degrees pathway. So, and IPCC was demonstrating in its report that we would go above 1.5, but there would be a chance to go back to 1.5 by enhancing the sinks of carbon. But at the moment, since we haven't heard pledges from the remaining part of G20 countries, excluding G7 and European Union, it's very difficult to achieve 1.5 to be honest. And we are at the moment heading towards 2.5 to 3 degrees warming, and we still have time to bend this emission growth curve and reach 2 degrees. But 1.5 is going to be extremely challenging, to be honest. It's not dead, so theoretically it's alive, but
Forças Armadas, salvem o Brasil! 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 Salvem o Brasil! Salvem o Brasil! Forças Armadas, 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 emana do povo, todo o poder emana do povo, todo o poder emana do povo, todo o poder emana do povo. Justiça
testing. Testing.
Forças Armadas, salvem o Brasil! Salvem o Brasil! Forças Armadas, salvem o Brasil! Forças Armadas, salvem o Brasil! Deixa eu passar. Salvem o Brasil! Aqui eu consigo passar. Obrigado, você. Deixa eu acompanhar o passar. Parabéns para você, todos estão de parabéns por estar aqui. Parabéns para você que veio o melhor do Brasil. Estamos no mesmo avião que cair, porque temos que salvar o Brasil. Forças Armadas!
Vamos entrar no momento de conexão. Começa com essas cabeças para que podemos começar. Senhor meu Deus, eis aqui, meu Pai, o teu povo. Segundo a tua palavra, se humilhar, o Senhor virá do alto céu e sarará a tua terra. Pai, livra de todo mal esse povo, a qual o Senhor tem tanto carinho. Todos juntos no Pai Nosso. Pai Nosso que estás no céu. Seja feita assim na terra como no céu. O nosso pão diário hoje, perdoai as nossas ofensas, assim como nós perdoamos a quem nos ofende. Não deixeis cair em nós. Amém. Amém. Senhor, peça a todos, logo em seguida, o hino nacional brasileiro.
Falar assim,
constante se empenhou nessa igualdade. Conseguimos conquistar com braços fortes. Em teu seio, ó liberdade, desafio nosso peito à própria morte. Ó pátria amada, idolatrada, salve, salve. Brasil do sonho intenso, raio vívido, de amor e de esperança a terra desce. Sem teu formoso céu risonho límpido, a imagem do cruzeiro resplandece. Gigante pela própria natureza, és velas forte embate do colosso. Se teu futuro esclarece a grandeza, terra adorada, entre outras mil és do Brasil, ó pátria amada. Dos filhos desse sol és mãe gentil, pátria amada, Brasil. Deitada eternamente nesse esplêndido, ao som do mar, a luz do céu profundo, fulguras ao Brasil, florão da América, iluminado ao sol do novo mundo, do que a terra mais garrida, seus risonhos lindos campos têm mais flores, nossos bosques têm mais vida, nossa vida e o teu seio mais amores. Ó pátria amada, idolatrada, salve, salve. Brasil de amor eterno, seja símbolo, o lábaro que ostentas estrelado, e diga o verde louro desta fábula, paz no futuro e glória no passado. Mas é que já a justiça estava forte, verás que o filho teu não foge à luta, nem teme quem te adora a própria morte. Terra adorada, entre outras mil és do Brasil, ó pátria amada. Dos filhos desse sol és mãe gentil, pátria amada, Brasil.
Bom dia, Rio de Janeiro! Pessoal, antes de iniciar, eu queria dar um recado para você. Eu preciso que aqui não possa ter muita gente subindo. Hoje não está permitido foto. Pessoal da mídia, se quiser subir, tem um filtro aqui, por favor. Não tem como. Não é permitido bebida alcoólica. Não é permitido fogos, mas o fogos não está. O fogos está vindo lá de baixo. Então, a gente não pode interferir nas pessoas. Pessoal, cornetinha, buzina, isso não é carnaval. Nós estamos num momento muito decisivo para a nossa nação. Ok? Estamos num momento decisivo. Aqui foi o palco onde tudo aconteceu. Então hoje, sinta privilegiado que você está nesse palco. Tá ok? Não é para ficar... Alô, som? Não é para ficar com corneta. Se for tirar foto, por favor, tira uma foto séria, com seriedade. Mostre para o mundo lá fora, quem está em casa, que aqui você não está perdendo seu tempo. Você é um guerreiro que está lutando pelo seu país. Tá ok? Outra coisa. Pessoal, quem quiser aqui, alô, som? As mídias não estão transmitindo esse momento. Eu peço a vocês que compartilhem. Filmem esse momento que está aqui hoje. Filma o que está acontecendo aqui hoje e passa para quem está em casa. Quem está em casa que não pode vir, vocês permitam assim, entregar o que está passando aqui para eles. Outra coisa, não é permitido, mais uma vez, pessoal daqui de trás, pessoal daqui, não é permitido bebida alcoólica. Caso você queira fazer isso, é por livre espontâneo, mas não aqui, outro lugar. Vai para lá, isso aqui não é uma festa. Isso aqui não é festa, nem é um movimento de carnaval. É uma ordem isso aqui. Aqui só tem pai, mãe, filho, tem crianças, tem adolescentes. Outra coisa, Os infiltrados que estão aí querendo fazer bagunça, pessoal, vai querer fazer bagunça em qualquer lugar. Só a gente abafar eles, respeitar e bota pra fora, ok? Da entrevista, vamos falar o que o nosso Brasil precisa. Nós estamos na rua, simples. Nós estamos na rua. Infelizmente, eles são insistentes. Só falar que está na rua, eu não dou entrevista, ok? Eu peço a vocês que entrem no grupo do Telegram. Lá tem todas as informações. Hoje, passa muita desinformação. Às vezes, você nem você copia e manda no grupo. Então, tem o grupo do Telegram. Vou falar para vocês agora. É o grupo ADM SOS RJ. Lá tem um canal também do YouTube. Eu preciso que vocês entrem para a gente começar a fazer a transmissão ao vivo. Tá bom? As doações. Quem quiser fazer doação, só ir lá na barraca, tá? Quem quiser beber... Tá, ok. Quem quiser água, só ir lá. Por favor, estamos precisando de doações de água. Garrafinha pequena, melhor, para comportar todo mundo, tá bom? Eu peço a vocês que vamos lutar pela nossa nação. É o nosso direito, é o direito do nosso povo, tá bom? Por favor, gente. Rio de Janeiro, bom dia, Rio de Janeiro. Pessoal, a gente recebeu uma instrução da equipe do metrô Rio, tá bom? E eles estão exigindo, por caráter de segurança, que quem está em cima da grade do metrô, quem está em cima da grade, por favor, tem que descer para sua própria segurança, tá bom, pessoal? Recomendação do metrô Rio, tá? Recomendação do metrô Rio. A grade, ela pode acabar não sustentando o peso de vocês e, infelizmente, acabar ocorrendo algum acidente. E é isso que ninguém quer no dia de hoje, tá? Então, obrigado pela compreensão. Deus abençoe. Bom dia, Rio de Janeiro. 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 Hoje fazem 7 dias que nós estamos nas ruas. Hoje fazem 7 dias que nós estamos lutando. Isso, pode aplaudir. E esse aplauso não é protagonismo de ninguém. Esse aplauso é porque você tem sido resistência. Aplauso é para você mesmo. Você que tem saído das suas casas. Você que tem se desprendido do seu conforto, do seu lazer. Ó, tem patriota que está acampado há 7 dias. Domingo saiu das suas casas no domingo, depois do que aconteceu, e veio direto acampar aqui. Parabéns para você, patriota. Hoje fazem 7 dias. Independente do que acontecer, se tivermos resposta pronta, imediata, ou curto, médio ou longo prazo, não interessa. Ficaremos 8, 9 dias, 10 dias, 11 dias, 12 dias, 13 dias, 14 dias, 1 mês, 2 meses, o tempo que for necessário. Seremos resistência! Às vezes as pessoas perguntam quem é o coordenador, quem é o líder, quem é a liderança, quem é o organizador, quem é o coordenador disso aqui? Quem é o coordenador disso aqui? Quem é o coordenador? Todo poder! Todo poder! Eles querem pegar alguém para Cristo. Supremo é o povo! 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 Não podemos permitir! Por isso nós estamos juntos! Porque a gente entende e reconhece que o povo está no poder. Sabemos que estamos vivendo diante de uma democracia. A vontade da maioria precisa ser respeitada. E durante anos, décadas, eu não estou falando do que aconteceu no domingo, durante décadas a nossa voz foi sufocada por uma minoria de burocratas que tem a caneta na mão e que decide se a gente vai para cá ou se a gente vai para lá. Chega disso! Chega disso! Poucas pessoas que não conhecem a nossa realidade, de levantar às 6 da manhã, de trabalhar, de comer, de se esforçar, e aí vem um bando de burocrata decidir o que eu e você devemos fazer? Não permitiremos mais! Todo aquele que se perder, qualquer um do seu familiar, por favor, o ponto de encontro vai ser aqui na frente do carro de som que está mais vazio. Shazam, tem alguém te esperando aqui, você vai ter por favor, vem pra cá, tá bom? Shazam, por favor, apareceu o carro de som. Eu peço a todos que têm seus afazeres específicos, venha para cá, venha para cá para esse cenário. É aqui que precisa parar, é aqui que a gente precisa movimentar. Ela quer mandar um recado.
Salve o Brasil! Salve o Brasil! Vamos!
Forças Armadas, vamos recorrer aos nossos irmãos brasileiros das Forças Armadas para salvar o Brasil, para salvar a nossa nação, para nos trazer a liberdade, para nos livrar da censura prévia, do ativismo judicial. Só as Forças Armadas podem nos ajudar, só as Forças Armadas podem nos salvar. Por isso que é extremamente importante e relevante a gente repetir quantas vezes forem necessário SOS Forças Armadas. direito. Exigimos da Força Armada uma ação rápida. SOS! SOS!
Forças Armadas!
SOS!
Forças Armadas!
SOS!
Forças Armadas!
SOS!
Forças Armadas!
SOS!
Forças Armadas! SOS! Forças Armadas! SOS!
SOS! Continuaremos firmes. Enquanto não acontecer, não sairemos das ruas. O Brasil acordou. Continuaremos. Aqui tem um povo que está clamando pela sua nação. SOS! SOS! Seriedade, gente, isso aqui não é brincadeira. SOS! Isso aí, vai cá. SOS! SOS! SOS!
Forças Armadas!
SOS!
Forças Armadas!
Não sairemos daqui enquanto não acontecer. Aqui ficará marcado na história. SOS!
Forças Armadas!
SOS!
Forças Armadas!
SOS!
Forças Armadas!
SOS!
Forças Armadas!
O povo brasileiro continua reivindicando seus direitos. Pedimos uma rápida resposta do Exército Brasileiro. SOS!
Forças Armadas!
SOS!
Forças Armadas!
SOS!
Forças Armadas!
Exército Brasileiro, intervida rápido. O povo não sai da rua enquanto você não agir. SOS!
Forças Armadas!
SOS!
Forças Armadas!
Isso aqui não é brincadeira, forte. SOS!
Forças Armadas!
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 O dia de hoje ficará na história e na memória do povo brasileiro. SOS!
Forças Armadas!
SOS!
Forças Armadas!
O Brasil continuará na rua, não sairá. Essa é a nossa força. Esse é o povo que jamais fugirá da luta. SOS!
Forças Armadas!
SOS!
Forças Armadas!
Continua! SOS!
Forças Armadas!
SOS!
Forças Armadas!
SOS!
Forças Armadas!
Vocês precisam de mais alto. Vocês são mais. Essa é a nação brasileira. Tem que tirar do peito. Tem que tirar do coração. Não adianta nada. Pra ficar parado. SOS!
Forças Armadas!
Mais alto. SOS!
Forças Armadas!
SOS!
Forças Armadas!
Vira de frente pro quartel. Não fica de costas. SOS!
Forças Armadas!
SOS!
Forças Armadas!
SOS!
Forças Armadas!
Chega! Cansamos! O povo brasileiro continuará na rua! Ninguém sairá das ruas! A ordem é a gente irá continuar! Não sairemos das ruas! Pessoal que tá de máscara, pessoal que tá fantasiado, isso aqui não é uma festa de carnaval. Eu vou entender que vocês estão fazendo isso aqui de uma festa de carnaval e o povo aqui também vai entender que vocês estão fazendo isso aqui de uma festa de carnaval. Por favor, isso aqui não é o final da Copa do Mundo, isso aqui não é o carnaval da São Paulo, isso aqui a gente está aqui para seriedade. Isso aqui tem pai e mãe de família. Outra coisa, se for pegar para beber, fique em casa, vai pra casa. Isso aqui é coisa séria. Isso aqui está decidido. Anos e anos, futuros e futuros de crianças que estão em casa agora enquanto seus pais estão aqui. Por favor, quem beber, vai para casa. Um abraço para todos os caminhoneiros do Brasil que estão aqui presentes. não tem artista, aqui não tem influência nenhuma. Se tem, é porque está trabalhando desde o primeiro dia. Pessoal, ninguém aqui sairá. Por favor, pessoal mascarado aí, com placa de outra coisa, por favor. Se ninguém vai jogar mesmo, vai voltar. Isso aqui não. Forças Armadas, salvem o Brasil! 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 Vocês têm que atuar lá em cima! Salvem o Brasil! Forças Armadas, 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 o brasileiro cansou! O brasileiro cansou! Salvem o Brasil! Continuaremos nas ruas! Salvem o Brasil! Salvem o Brasil! Forças Armadas, salvem o Brasil! Enquanto vocês não conseguem, abaixo! Salvem o Brasil! Forças Armadas, salvem o Brasil! Forças Armadas, salvem o Brasil! Forças Armadas, salvem o Brasil! Continua abaixo! Pessoal, tá todo mundo gritando, tem que ser junto! Força! you.